All right, we are live. Greetings, fellow traders. Let me get this tweeted out for everybody so everybody can join in. 1 second. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So today, oh, we got an email from Shirley here. 1 second. Let me make sure that gets through. Do 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 do. 1 second, folks. Oh, that was a good one. And the MBS. Okay, cool. Good, good, good. All right. Well, I hope everybody's doing great tonight. So tonight we're going to continue our discussion on the secrets for profiting in bull and bear markets. Based on Stan Weinstein's book, we found a few cool tools that were in the book that I think would help anybody that's interested in learning. So today we're going to be talking about advanced decline. And before we do that, please take a moment to review this disclaimer. Everything we're going to talk about is for educational purposes only and not investment advice. All right, awesome, awesome, awesome. So let's take a look and see where we're at with the market first before we get started. So the SPX today gapped down. So over the weekend, right, lots of concerns about the coronavirus spreading. That was kind of, weighed heavy. There was also shots on the embassy in Iraq, the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, and so that also, increased fears. And so the market gapped down today. Futures were down 50 points this morning, and we ended up down 50 points in the market today. Not without the bulls trying a little bit, but ended up being kind of a choppy day, a pretty big range day, 24-point day, and we ended up below the intermediate trend line. Depending how you draw it, depending how it looks, we're pretty much like right at it. So depending how this candle closed, we closed as a spinning top today. So I would be really super bearish if it ended up being like a momentum shooting star to the downside, but it really kind of wasn't, right? If you go to SPY, SPY kind of formed a little bit of a shooting star, but it was green, right? And not quite as much volume as Friday, but still pretty good volume today on SPY. So, definitely a concern today, with the market. There's definitely a change of composure. We had a shot across the bow on Friday. And so, kind of going into today, we're like, all right, what's going on? Let's see how it holds. So it seemed like a lot of the day that the majority of the market was like not really sure what to do, right? The bears weren't really pressing to the downside and the bulls weren't really going. It was kind of like waiting for things to sort out. It actually kind of reminded me of a Monday on a Fed week, which it is. We have Fed on Wednesday. So we could see another day of chop. This could be just sort of like, all right, we got the fears out, and maybe the bulls will give the bears a run for the money, push to all-time highs, and then this will just kind of be behind us. So we really have to see. Right now is this kind of an area of caution, right, as we're in the trend box right here. So let's take a look at the, let me just make sure everything's coming through okay. So let's take a look at the price action today. Okay, so we can see it was a pretty choppy day, right? The majority of the move was the gap down. We did have a fast move, right? We came down to 32.35-ish, 32.34.50, but around this area, right? So that gave a nice pop at the open. That was pretty much the biggest range move of the day, 15 points on that candle, right? So we were able to capitalize that in our group. We have some techniques that we use, and and then the rest of the day just kind of gave some interesting moves, right? Very, very consolidated day. Kind of came back into the 15 order range and gave us that order level. These are the levels that we look at too intraday here. Get these pulled up here for today's date. So we provide these to our members before every open. You can see we had some interesting action here, right? We had a couple levels. We had this closing gap below that I really like to test this area today. It was pretty neat. And you can see here in this channel, we had an intraday channel right here. It actually gave some moves, being today was an expiration day. Each one of these was worth like 2 points on the options, right? And this one here was worth a little bit more. But it's kind of interesting when you kind of see that price action. But these are the levels that we use. You see, we mostly held those, and we'll see how we hold going into tomorrow. Let's take a look at the S&P futures real quick just to see where we're at. So, interestingly enough, we're getting a nice relief bounce this evening. So let's see, from today's low, from here, right? We can kind of see we're holding this trend line from today. We kind of have a macro bump trend line right here, and we're above that as well. So let's see if this holds throughout the evening. If it does, definitely we might see there's probably a lot of folks short today going into tomorrow. So this could squeeze out some bears going into tomorrow. So we'll have to see how that goes. Okay. So that being said, let's continue and just kind of talk about our discussion here. This is, in Stan Weinstein's book, it was kind of a big book, but, he covered, a couple major topics that we were going to go through this week. But really, if you kind of extract some of the simple tools and indicators that he had, it's really pretty neat, and I want to share those with you. So this is pretty good stuff right here. So today we're going to talk about the advanced decline. So we've talked about different types of advanced decline lines before. We've talked about the vol SPD, the VOLD, different things like that. But there's a pretty cool indicator in Thinkorswim, which was mentioned in the book. Let's go to the bar chart right here. Let's go to SPX. Get that pulled up here. Okay. And so what this tool is, this is pretty cool too. We mentioned this yesterday, the symmetry, right, between the December lows, right, to the May highs, right. We took that symmetry line and kind of projected it forward, and it kind of brought us to this recent top right here, which is pretty interesting. So we'll see if that holds. But if it doesn't, the next level up is right up here at this 30, kind of 3480, 3500 area. So we'll see exactly what happens, what the market has in store here. But anyway, so let me put a clean chart up here, a clear chart up. 1 second. Okay, and then real simple stuff. You go to Studies and you just type in Advance Decline. Okay, so it's a lower study, right? And it kind of looks like this, right? But you really kind of have to zoom out on it and kind of take a look and zoom in, right? And kind of see how to use it. So this is a great tool to use. This is essentially just that, right? It shows the advance over the decline, and it's a lot like the market itself, but it shows what's advancing, versus what's declining, and it helps to find reversals in the market, right? So we treat it, almost essentially the same way as we do a price and a trend line. You can see it's slightly different, right? We see it's a little bit steeper here. So a couple things we could do is, just do trend lines on it, which is pretty neat, right? So we look for areas where, so you have your low to high, just like we normally do our trend lines, and we look for breakdown points, right? So once it breaks down through the advanced decline line, we see oftentimes, corrective patterns. This is another tool that we can use to see if the top is in or to see if there's a correction happening, right? Yesterday we talked about on the weekly chart, right? We talked about an interesting moving average. Remember, it was the weekly 30 moving average. And so this is just another cool tool that can be used to help find these type of reversals, right? So, we can see here, right at this point right here, we saw that this was obviously breaking down here through an up. If we had a trend line here, trend box breakdown right here for a nice move down, we can see that was verified here by the advanced decline line. Another thing we could do here is do a fresh trend line as well, right? You can do it for multiple areas, from here to here. What I like about this too is, a lot of times you see these tests of this line, right? So you can see we kind of pushed up. Now there's another one you could have drawn right here, right? You can see in this breakdown right here would have brought you to this part right here. But the macro trend line here, it was a breakdown, initial breakdown. It was retested, right? And then once it was retested, right, you could see it continued here. It kind of was like a little bit of a lower high. Here you had definitely, or a lower high. You definitely had a lower high on this one, right? So the bearishness was definitely in place, right? You could see, basically it was forming like a little bit of a, bear pennant type pattern, right? And then that's where we saw the big breakdown in December, right? It also helps you see the reversals to the upside, right? Breakdown to the upside right here. Okay, so it's kind of brings us to today, flash forward to where we are now. So what is the advanced decline line doing now? Are we there yet? Not really, right? So there's a couple of different ways you could do it. I mean, if you went from all the way from the December lows, maybe, right? It gets a little bit tight right here, but not quite. Even from December, we haven't quite broken down this advanced decline line, right? So even if we did like another one here, right, you'd see we're nowhere close. So, let's get that back from December. So, does this mean that we have found a top? Not necessarily. According to the advanced decline methodology, we haven't broken down yet, right? Even though it's looking a little bit bearish right here, we are still approaching this line and have not broken down below it yet. So that is very, very important and something that to keep in mind to when these, these type of tops are in. So something to keep an eye on. Obviously, always, like I always like to say, the bigger the trend line, the better, right? And this is definitely, from the December lows, definitely a significant area here. So that being said, you could always do, something really, really tight like in here. And yeah, we had a little bit of a breakdown here to say like, hey, we're getting bearish. But until we break down this trend line, we're still kind of okay, right? Doesn't mean we can't get further downside, but right now we have not broken down below this. So pretty cool tool. Definitely something to add, just for one of those things where you're like, oh, okay, are we at the top yet? Is this, is this it, or should I start getting short? This is definitely one of the things to kind of add to the repertoire, add to the tool belt to look. So another simple tool extracted from the book, and I hope you guys find that helpful. And at this point, if anybody has any questions or chart requests, please feel free to plug those in the chat window, and we'll get through as many as we can, try to wrap up as early as possible so we can get a good night's sleep and have another awesome trading day tomorrow. So good stuff. All right, so Alex sent one in through Twitter, so we've got a few, or we sent a few in through Twitter, so let's take a look at those here. Let's go to the daily chart with our candles. First one there is Teva. Well, this has been an interesting one for a while, right? I remember I used to trade this one, way back when it was like way higher, like 30 something bucks, and now, it's like a $10 stock, right? So this $10 is a really critical area for Teva to get above. So a couple cool things, right? We've recently had a golden cross here, the 50 moving average. It's the red one right here that crossed over the 200 MA. So we had a gold cross right there, got to our fib fan line. Now we're kind of holding the cloud and we're holding the 50 moving average. So let's see if that continues to hold, right? So let's take a look here. So we've got a little bit of a trend line here. There's your high right there, right? So we're seeing, it's, generally pretty bullish right here. So really this is the key area right here, is the 50 moving average and the cloud. So these are kind of the two things we want to see. I like how it closed today. We don't have a lot of volume today, but it did close bullishly above the cloud. Ultimately we want to see it get above these guys here, right, to see if this thing is ready to break out. Right now it sort of looks like it's a little bit range bound kind of in this area. So it's trying, right, it's doing all the right signs here, gold cross over the cloud, things like that. Let's get over these levels and maybe we could see a move back up to that 14, 15 level. And we got earnings coming up relatively soon. So good stuff there. Viavi Solutions, another one that got struck by the gap down. So we saw a lot of gap downs to the 50-day moving averages today. So a lot of bounces today. So kind of a key area for the market and like its constituents to hold today. So this one did hold here and bounce off of that. Let's see if we can get over a couple prior levels here and try to work its way up. And let's see, SPY, of course. So SPY, a little bit of a inverted hanging man type deal right here, right? So kind of gapped a little bit different than SPX. Let's see, so we have these levels right here. So yeah, so we gap below a couple trend lines right here. It does look like it wants to test 50-day moving average just based on what it is. But because it closed green, we kind of want to see if we get any follow through on this one tomorrow. So if we gap up tomorrow and push, we may just fill the gap and this might just be like a little blip on the radar. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on there. Definitely SPX gives a little context because we're so close to the trend line. GDX. Following kind of the standard procedure here with gold, something we've been seeing a lot recently is we're seeing a lot of gap ups and fades. Gap ups and fades. Gap up and fade, right? Gap up, fade, right? Gap up, fade. So we're seeing that a lot recently, so that's exactly what happened here today with GDX. Again, really kind of key stuff is, a nice breakout over this recent pivot high and see if it can work its way up. And then UNG. A great one to keep an eye on. It seems like it's a perpetual short, right? So, again, recent lows right here. Fresh lows, fresh trend line. Oh, got it right there. So try to break out today and then keeps on coming back down. So, until this thing can get strong and get above this trend line at least, right? Kind of over this way, right? Now we can see if it can get its way up to the cloud. So again, it continues to be short, seems to be shortable. So good stuff. Nate, what's going on? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in this evening. Osiris, what's up? Yay. What's going on? Intel, let's take a look. I'll give you all the intel I can on Intel. So INTC had such a great gap up the other day and really needed to hold this gap. But again, the market was down pretty heavy today. It stayed within the prior day's range initially and then kind of really had a nasty close. Didn't have a lot of volume. So we'll see if it continues to try to hold this area right there. But it's really key that it gets back above this recent gap level. Otherwise, it could fade this gap and then kind of mess around down here for a while and then try and then do its Intel thing. And then who knows, maybe work its way up. So we have to kind of keep an eye on that and see. There's a bunch of gaps below that it has to work on. So we'll see what it has in store today. Nasty candle today, though, on that one. And then we had a few that came in from Shirley. So we have ARNC. Huge day today on ARNC. So Arconic, right, they missed a little bit on earnings, but some of their guidance was pretty good, I believe. One of their big customers is Boeing, right? And so with the 737 MAX being held and all that stuff, they're losing some business there. But because of just the way it is today, just huge volume came in today and they ended up buying the dip. So they must have said something right on the conference call. Got right back up to the 50-day moving average, right? So let's see if it holds there. I want to see it close over today's highs. You might see momentum move there with some good volume. It's going to be tough to beat today's volume, but some decent volume, and then try to work its way up. Again, we have some recent highs right here. This 31.99 that really has to get above. IAU. Pretty interesting stuff here. Some more gold type stuff. It did close above the recent pivots, but it kind of looks like a hanging man up here. I would like to have seen a little more volume and a little bit of a stronger candle on that one. So just keep an eye on that because gold does like to gap around. Drip. Wow, look at this one. So this is your oil and gas ETF. Looks like to be inverted, right? So it looks like right. A little bit inverted right here. So this is definitely working its way up right here because you can see here for the most part, like you have like like your oil and gas sector, like your XOMs, things like that. All these have been getting destroyed recently. So that drip does look interesting. Is working its way up here. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Right, so this is and also keep an eye on oil in general too. But it has been gapping and just going a lot recently. So let's see if it's got any more strength to it. Or weakness, however you want to look at it. So NVRO, Navarro, Nevro. There you go. Woo, big volume today. Good candle. Good grief. That was a nice one today too. I think this popped up on our radio. Yeah, medical devices. That's right. So good close today. Nice upper shadow. I'm not sure what their medical devices are, but they may be involved with helping out in some coronavirus vaccine type work. So anyway, either way, definitely worth researching on that. But good candle today. So it looks like it's working its way, trying to be strong here. So that's good. And then VMBS. Little looking interesting here. So yeah, definitely a nice move up today. Just be careful. This one trades really, really funky intraday. So, but definitely worth keeping an eye on. Really, really choppy stuff. So generally kind of trending up, but probably wouldn't touch this one. Mortgage-backed securities. Yeah. Tough housing numbers today too. So that may have been part of the reason that it kind of pulled back afterward. So good stuff. Matthew, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in, man. Thomas, good evening. Thanks for joining. MHawk420, hello. What's up? SMDC4S, President accounted for. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Ramesh, what's up? Now, let's take a look now. Do it now. Yeah, so nice recovery today on now. Earnings coming up in 2 days after the market. So nice hold here. Held a lot of key levels right here. There's some consolidation zone right here that it held. So really at this point, you've got a closing gap up here that it needs to test. If it closes above that, right, it could start to work its way up and kind of test those highs. AVGO. Yeah, AVGO. What a great move the other day with the Apple news, right? And then, just kind of gave it all up. It's like, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be fun to swing. Oh, no, right? What happened? So it was a rough day on Friday, right? But it did get a nice gap up on the news. So anybody who swung off this beautiful candle right here with increasing volume over the 50-day moving average and over the cloud really benefited from a nice gap up the next day on that Apple news. So today, a pretty weak candle right here with some good volume as well. It's got some closing gaps and stuff to test below if it wants to. AMD. Yeah, this sector, did okay today. Like, had, gap down with everything else, but it did, try to recover. So it's back in this kind of congestion zone right here. So let's see if we can get back out of it and try to work its way up back to those highs. Great stuff. Cloud guy, what's going on? Cron. Let's see what Cron. Oh, this sector struggling here. You'd think the pot sector would be okay, right? But it's medicinal, right? So anyway, so rough day on Friday too, and got a little bit fall through to the downside. Try to come back in and rejected those lows. Okay, a little bit bearish there, but it's also right at the 50-day moving average, so it's got that too. So it's kind of a tricky area right here on Cron. Let's take a look at CGC real quick and see how it's doing. Kind of a similar candle right here, but this time it closed below some prior resistance levels. So let's see how that holds. Right, might want to test at least maybe the scene of the breakout on CGC. So definitely an interesting sector to keep an eye on. Michael, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. SQ. Oh, yeah. This one, I meant to look at the close today. Oh, okay. This is one I was like, oh, it was so strong intraday. Right, had a big move, big recovery, completely reclaimed the prior day's candle, and then pushed above it, and then rejected it. So if it closed above it, that would have been great. We probably would have looked to have swung square overnight. But because of the upper shadow, it's a little bit, needs to get above today's high now. So just such a tricky name. SO, the perpetual motion machine. This thing just keeps on climbing. So this and a lot of the other, kind of energy sector type stocks, right? So power companies, things like that. Just a nice little flight to safety right here. And this thing's been great since this candle, right? Just a nice move up. Just an incredible move on SO. With no real reason except for that it's like in the sector there. Unless there's something coming that I don't know. But I know they've tried to build some power plants down here and failed. So yeah, so that's kind of interesting to see it up like that. So Slack work has been on our radar too. I've put this on the bearish list a couple times. We had a bearish candle right here, got some fall to the downside, and today gave you a doji. So let's see if it gives you a doji sandwich down on that one, but it's finally kind of reached general target areas right here of support. So it would have to break down below those levels with some strength to kind of continue. Otherwise, it might be a reversal doji and try to work its way back up to the cloud. Okay, and then CRWD. CrowdStrike held the cloud pretty well today, held the prior double inside day levels right here and closed above it. Couldn't quite get a lot of volume, but again, it did give a nice move up here, so maybe this might just be a minor pullback, but again, it's got to get above these levels up here for it to kind of show its strength again. Sergey, what's going on? Netflix, yeah, let's take a look at Netflix. So a rough day today, right? So here's the recent. This is an earnings day. It's a day after earnings. We had a big day, right? What was it on Thursday? Strong move, right? Nice candle, got a little bit of follow through the next day, and then kind of rejected the prior gap levels up here. It kind of came back down with an upper shadow, and then today it rejected that big day's high right there, right? And then put in an upper shadow as well. So keep an eye on this one. It is pretty close to the 50% range of that big candle, so that may be a support zone. If not, it may want to come back to the scene of the breakout, right? And then who knows? We are seeing a potential cross here of the 50 and the 200 MA, so let's see if that actually ends up panning out. Good stuff. Oh yeah, SPCE. Let's take a look there. So it's been a really, really fascinating stock recently, right? Huge consolidation zone, a little bit of a cup and handle breakout right here to get out of the cloud, and then it can give you a congestion right here. Then finally broke out here with this candle, and then gave this huge move to the upside, a little bit of a pennant, and then up again. So let's see. So today's candle right here, right? We filled a gap, right? So we kind of filled those levels right there. So let's see if it hold. It may want to consolidate here for a couple days before it keeps trying again. We'll see. MHawk 420. Hey, my pleasure. Yeah. Thoughts? AbbVie. Yeah. So AbbVie is pretty interesting. This had a nice move recently, right? So this candle right here was a real key one. It closed over a lot of major below a lot of major levels, and got some great follow through to the downside. Then it put in a lower shadow, right? And then today it tried to get above it and failed. So pretty nasty candle today with increased volume. So this is one we'll see. I mean, they are working on some vaccine type stuff for China. So they need to come up with some news quick, because this candle is looking really, really bearish and might want to test the bottom of the cloud. Okay, and then THMO. Interesting. So it closed above the recent pivot levels right here. Oh, there it goes. Closed above the recent levels right here, but rejected those guys. So that's going to be a tough one right there. So I mean, if you go to the macro trend line right here, it stayed below there. Right? If you go to the next micro one here, I mean, yeah, it's closing above these pivot levels here, but this is kind of the key one to stay above, right? And it failed to do that today. Look at that intersection too. Pretty neat. Good stuff. Bose, what's going on? Target. Yeah, let's take a look. TGT. Yeah, so Target trying to come back up, right? Really key area right here. Filled the gap, is holding the gap, has another gap below, which hasn't quite tested yet, but it had a pretty strong day today with good volume. So hard to keep Target down. But let's see if we can get back in the cloud. Let's give us a strong candle back in the cloud to try to get up to the 50-day moving average. PAA. Okay, yeah. So, Plains, All American Pipeline. Okay, so struggling a little bit right here, a little bearish. Right, definitely below the trend line right here. Earnings coming up, dividend coming up. I'd probably be hands off this one, just until after earnings on that. But interesting candle right there. Square we just looked at, but let's take another look here. Again, was really strong intraday, but couldn't close above the prior day's high. PayPal, gosh, I don't even look at this thing anymore. I just refuse to. It's so tough to trade. And look, you can see why. It's not like this is like you saw this on a lot of stocks today, but this is like standard operating procedure for PayPal. It's just a painful move. Even the up moves are painful. It's like, when I want an up move, I want Southern Company. I want that. Every candle green, right? PayPal it's like nickname should be Pain Pal. It's just it's a really difficult. But it does have earnings coming up this week too. So let's see if it can, I don't know, shake off its craziness. And then Eros. So Eros International looking interesting. Could be a potential doji sandwich to the downside. Something to look at right there. You're about to see a bow tie coming up soon with the 50 and the 200 moving average. So that could be interesting too. So got a little bit of support right here. But if it breaks down below there, we might see a doji sandwich down. Might want to test that 50-day moving average. So good stuff. Heather, good evening. Hope you're doing great. Hope you had an awesome day today. One of the things I wanted to point out to you guys real quick is VIX. Okay, so one of the reasons that the market, so S&P futures are up like 10 points right now, right? One of the key things we always look at is the VIX, right? What is the VIX doing, right? So this is a major geometric line here from these recent highs, right? So we had 50.3, right? We tag this guy right here and draw it down. You can tell this is an old line because it's not even in the bright pink that we like to do, or the bright purple that we like to do, right? So look what happened today. Look where we gapped to today. Right to it and rejected it with an upper shadow. So until it can get above this guy, right? Until it can get above that guy, right? To set things straight again, right? Or to correct things, whatever it is, right? It's still being suppressed and it's still below these, kind of geometric lines right here, which means that the bulls still have a chance to work their way up. So we'll see how that goes there and give the bears a run for their money. So anyway, just a cool little tool there I wanted to show you guys. So yeah, so good stuff. Well, I hope you guys found this helpful. The advanced decline is a really, really cool tool to use. You don't just have to use it on the SPX; you can use it on other charts as well to see if hey the top is in or whatever the case is. But it definitely it's not the go-to the all saying tool that things are changing, but it definitely is one you could look at if I'm not below if this advanced decline is not breaking below my trend line here, right? Then I don't have to be totally worried about what's going on with it. But if it does break below it, then you might want to switch composure, right? Adjust and look to take on a different perspective on whatever you're tracking. So anyway, good stuff, guys. I really appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. Great chart requests, and looking forward to continuing the discussion on the secrets for profiting. And we'll go over, kind of tying some things together and some other ideas, through the rest of the week. So if you're new here, definitely click subscribe on YouTube. And also, even if you're not new here, take a look at VXX. Definitely hit the like button too. We like that too. That's always fun to see. So, so VXX2 again, pretty much a completely suppressed instrument, right? So, but here's your line right here too on the VXX. So still below there. Nice pop up to the 50, right? But still below the cloud and all this stuff here. So it's like don't need to be too worried yet. I mean, it was a little scary over the weekend, but hopefully Friday, gave everybody, kind of enough heads up, like when we had the shot across the bow here, right? That like, maybe just kind of risk off for over the weekend, that type of thing. So, and it's a good thing, it was a good thing, right? Because we saw that gap down today. So anyway, good stuff. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. And for not another awesome trading day. And remember your risk first, and stay safe so you can stay in the game. And I'll talk to you. Oh, we got a couple others that came through. Heather, yeah. So Twitter, let's take a look. Twitter. So Twitter, I think something came out after hours, like they had some like security breach or something like that, but market doesn't really seem to care. So there you go. So there's Twitter. So Twitter with the gap down today. Again, it started to get strong up here, and then it just sort of faded a little bit. And Friday was kind of like the last level, and then kind of gapped down and kind of recovered and held some of these levels right here. So Twitter is kind of out of play right now until it can get above these guys again, which is pretty much corresponding with the cloud. So too bad. It was really starting to set up pretty nicely, and then it was just like, nah. And then you can see if you want to buy the dip right here, but I wouldn't even mess with it, right? So still under the 200-day moving average on that one. And then INMD, Jeff. Yeah, let's take a look. INMD. Yep, gap right down the 50-day moving average. Be careful. It does look bearish right here, but it may want to hold that 50 into tomorrow. So just kind of see what it does. See if we can get back over the cloud for you and then try to work its way back up. We did talk about this recently. Like if we close above these levels, it did do that and give it a nice move up. So if anybody was tracking that, it did its job, right? And then Friday happened and kind of saw that gap down here to the 50. So we'll see how that holds. But good stuff. All right, guys. Well, everybody have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. And remember your risk first and stay safe so you can stay in the game. Have a great night.